What's up guys, Perry from Rockville here, and today we're going to be going over what all of the wires, inputs, and outputs do on the RV8.2A subwoofer enclosure and mono amp kit. So to connect the subwoofer to the amplifier, we're going to be using the speaker terminals on the back of the sub and the speaker terminals on the amp itself. So to do that, we can take the included speaker wire here and connect one end to the positive and negative terminals on the back of the sub by using the push terminals. So you'll see we have two different sides of the speaker wire here. So there's one with a red stripe and one with no stripe. This would just help to track which side is the positive and which side is the negative. So for today, we're going to be using the one with the red stripe as the positive and the clear side as the negative. So you can take a wire stripper to strip the ends of the speaker wire so that it can fit into your terminals. Again, we'll connect the red wire to the positive terminal and the clear side to the negative terminal. Then to connect it to the amplifier, we're going to unscrew the speaker terminals here on the amp, strip the other ends of the wire so we can fit it into the terminals. Then connect the other ends of the speaker wire into the speaker terminals with the red stripe going into the positive and the clear side going into the negative. Now from there, we can set up the power for the amplifier by using the terminals on the other side here, which are the 12 volt, remote, and ground terminals. So the 12 volt terminal would run to the battery of your vehicle, the remote terminal would run to the accessory or the ignition switch of your vehicle, and the ground terminal can run to the metal chassis of your vehicle. Again, we have plenty of videos on how to install the amplifier to your vehicle or what to do if you're trying to troubleshoot any issues. So if we take a look at the other side of the amp, you'll see we have all of the inputs, outputs, and all the different functions for the amp. So starting with the RCA inputs and outputs here, we can use the RCA input to connect our head unit or music source to the amp. Then we have the RCA outputs that we can use to expand our setup even further with additional amplifiers or speakers. Now in case your head unit or music source doesn't have RCA outputs to connect to the RCA inputs of the amp, we can also use the high level input along with the high level input wire harness here. So you're just going to take the wire harness and plug it into the high level input. From there, you're going to connect these wires to the high level output wires on the back of your head unit. Next to that, we have the gain knob to set the level coming out of our subwoofer. We have a video on how to set up the gain of your amplifier for your sub to fit with your overall setup. Next, we have the bass EQ knob to boost the bass up to 12 dB. And right next to that, we have the input for the bass remote knob. So this is really cool because we can use the included bass remote knob here to control the volume coming out of our sub without having to go into the back and fix the settings on the amp itself. So to connect it to your amplifier, you're just going to take the remote wire here, plug one end into the bass remote knob, then connect the other end into the input right here. Next to that, we have the low pass filter to set how much low end is coming out of our sub. So for example, if I were to set this at 100 Hertz, everything from 100 Hertz and below would be coming out of the sub. We also have the subsonic knob here that acts as a high pass filter. So if I set this to 35 Hertz, we're going to be hearing 35 Hertz and above out of our subwoofer. Now we can use this and the low pass filter together to set the exact frequency range that we want to have coming out of the sub. So if I set the low pass filter to 100 Hertz and the subsonic filter to 35 Hertz, we're only going to be hearing that frequency range coming from the sub. Above these knobs, we have the crossover mode that's going to set the amplifier either to low pass mode or full range mode. If you set this to low pass mode, the amplifier will play that frequency range that we set with the knobs underneath. And if you set this to full range mode, the amplifier will send the full range frequency to the sub. Next, we have the logic turn on feature, which allows the amplifier to power on as soon as it receives any current or sound signal. So with this, we have two different settings. We have the DC sense, which is going to have the amp detect high level signal from a high powered head unit. And then we have the radio remote that's going to be able to detect signal coming from an RCA head unit. So in summary, you want to switch this to radio remote if you're using a head unit with RCA outputs, and the DC sense if you're using a high powered head unit. So hopefully this explained what each of the wires, inputs, and outputs do for the RV8.2A subwoofer enclosure and mono amp kit. But of course, if you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to reach out to our customer support team through phone or email. As always, I'm Perry from Rockville, and we'll see you guys next time.